Welcome to the Dawn Osborne Show, Limitless Life. The big question women like you and I ask is, how do we do that? How do we have a growth mindset? How do we increase our emotional intelligence? How do we do life, business and marketing, and yet still remain balanced in the rhythm of our life and our family? Those are the questions that this podcast will answer. My name is Dawn Osborne, and welcome to my Limitless Life podcast. Welcome everybody, welcome to Wow Women, and I have the amazing Monique Parker here today. I am particularly extra excited about this because I've had a little bit to do with Monica over the years. I've actually been a bit of a stalker, I'll be honest with you. Because you were kind of a pioneer with the movement of, entrepreneurial women onto the social media scene, and I was kind of watching you, and then we got to become friends, and then you kind of disappeared to Brisbane, and I didn't have access to you anymore, and then obviously your career changed. But so I have been stalking you. I admittedly stalk women who I admire and women who make me go, wow. Hence, that's why I've got you on the show. So look, people watching, some people know you. Let's just tell us a little bit about yourself, and obviously you're going to share some wisdom, which I have got. I'll let you know. I've got my notes ready because I know that you are a woman of wisdom. But just give us a bit of a background of where you've come from, what you've done, and what you want to share with us today.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. For those of you who haven't followed along with my journey, I've worked in marketing for a long time, and I worked for a multi-million-dollar, very fast-paced startup in the business coaching industry that when I was 28, which was an amazing opportunity, and I saw tremendous growth and learned a lot of things and burnt out really, really hard and fast. And it was from there that I used that as a platform to launch my own marketing consultancy and coaching business, and started heading onto, that scene you were sharing about before with women in business and the online world, and those amazing, fun and freedom that you can have working from home and creating your lifestyle. And really was part of that beginning wave of that, particularly here in Australia, because at the time my mentors were in America, and I traveled over there to bring back the most kind of cutting edge stuff. So it was a scary time, these days where everyone's doing a live stream, everyone's putting themselves out there. But back then that was something that I really taught, and it was quite new. And obviously, from a marketing perspective, that's one thing. But because my clients were all women, it was really the confidence behind all of that I ended up working with people a lot on. And, it's what we'll kind of touch on a bit today, I think, behind the scenes of that. And then I kind of reached a season where I'd been in that niche and in that world for about 6 years. And I felt a calling for something quite different and new to continue to expand and stretch me. And also I'd found that, the energy in that space wasn't so much in growth mode anymore. So it's never too late to reinvent and just, take on new callings. And I have dived back into a more sort of traditional role and traditional world, doing media and PR for Fraser Island and a couple of businesses. And it's been a total change, and I've been loving it. And I've been able to take everything that I learned in the business context with me in this environment. So that's been really cool and kind of given me an unfair advantage, and meant I've been able to have a lot of fun and joy while creating really kick-ass results. So so that gives some context for narrowing down the 3 key points of wisdom I wanted to share today.
Awesome. So are we talking to a businesswoman? Are we talking to a woman who's going through transition out of one career into the next? What woman are we talking to with your wisdom?
So I really thought about how I could share something that would be applicable for someone regardless of what their external circumstance was. But probably everything I share, regardless, always speaks to someone who is called for more, feels called to bigger things, whether that be through the vehicle of their own business. They might be stepping into that, or they might be currently in their business and ready for the next level. Or they might have been, running a business or doing something quite successfully and now ready for a complete, change of scene. So it's a woman who's ready for something big, ready to take a leap, and who's called for more. So a common theme, regardless of any situation, and probably the first thing I'll share, everyone always asks me, how am I so confident? How do I have the confidence to put myself out there, to take risks and do really ballsy things? And I will say, to be fair, I probably, my personality is quite a strong person to start with. However, confidence, I've, done a lot of mindset work over the years. However, truthfully, I have found that my confidence hasn't come through the mindset work. It's come through taking action and and letting the mindset work then kind of pick up the pieces after you've already committed, right? So if I waited to launch my own business or do a live stream or do a video or do a massive big photo shoot or a project I'd never done before, if I waited until I felt confident, it would never happen, right? Ever. Regardless of what level of confidence it might look like I have on the outside, I still face exactly the same fears as everyone else. The only difference is, I just do it anyway. So that's the first piece of wisdom I wanted to share was, don't wait until you feel confident to say yes. Say yes straight away. Commit yourself to something, even if it's like a small thing. Make sure there's some other people involved. So there's a bit of accountability, or you're delivering something for someone else. You're doing something for someone else, because then you can't really back out, right? Commit yourself and just do it, because I've found that all of the fear, anxiety, self-doubt, even self-criticism happens in the moments of non-action and non-doing. Right. So if you're dreading making a phone call, maybe it's a sales call, maybe you have to chase up a creditor, or maybe you just need to make a big ask of someone, you'll find that all of the anxiety and doubt happens before you make the call. Right. The minute you're on the phone, you're just in action, you're doing it. Right. And so confidence is really energy and motion and just moving forward, and not giving yourself, not having a conversation with yourself that says, I don't feel confident. Nobody feels confident until you've done that thing 100 times. The first time you do anything new, you're always going to feel fear. So my big thing is to say yes to things you don't feel ready for, whether that be a promotion, whether that be raising your fees, whether that be, going out with a new set of friends, right? Making new friends in the world, or going to a new organization. Just say yes before you're ready and watch magic unfold in your life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. So was that tip number one?
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. Yes, just say yes.
Yeah, just say yes before you're ready.
That's right. I love that. And there's so much truth in that. So much truth, because, we avoid, don't we? Because it's like, oh, well, I'll wait until I've lost weight. I wait until my kids are a bit older. I'll wait. But guess what? That moment never comes, right? That moment never comes.
Never comes. So absolutely. And a great example is I often get a lot of feedback from people about all of my photo shoots and how much they love all my personal branding and my photo shoots. And the secret is, every time I do a photo shoot, I kind of leap into the next level. And I always feel awkward. I always feel like, who am I to be doing this? Who is this diva? I don't even know her. She's full on, and she's more. I look at the photos and I go, she looks as confident as I want to feel, right? And the hilarious thing is, most of the times I will do a new photo shoot, and it will take me about 2 years before I feel comfortable using those photos.
Whoa.
Now, It doesn't stop me. I use them straight away, but it's because who I've stepped up to be in that moment represents, my most confident version of myself at that time. But how I feel on a daily basis isn't that, right? So, but I put the photos out anyway. Most of the time I have, a physical aversion, even to how I look in the photos, and really don't personally like it, but I put them out there in the world anyway, because it's always in service of something. It's in service of my goals and dreams. It's in service of what I'm trying to create and contribute in the world. But it usually takes me about 2 years to catch up in real life for how I, feel I look in those photos. And that's just a mindset thing. So if I waited to feel that confident to do that, I would always be 2 years behind. So, it's really interesting.
I like that. I've really caught that, because I think that I'm a big believer in doing the vision videos or a vision board. And I actually put stuff on my vision boards and in my videos that I actually, be honest, I don't believe. I don't have confidence in those visions yet. But when I look back at 2015 and 2016, I look back and I'm like, whoa, yeah, I so did that. I so believe that. So I feel like I'm connecting with what you're saying, is like, you just got to kind of put yourself out there, even if you don't believe it, but you will catch up, even if it's 2 years, you will catch up to that person or to what you want, or, what vision you have. But in the, in the middle of that, you just do it, even if you don't believe it or you don't have faith for it, you just step out anyway.
Absolutely.
Comes. That's really good. That's really good.
And I so love that you shared that, because I think there's this strange dialogue particularly like in the coaching industry, around how you shouldn't fake it until you make it. There's that camp, and then there's the other camp that are full on, visualize who you want to be and all of that. And I feel that as long as you're not making any promises that you can't commit on, but if it's mainly in your own internal world and dialogue, you're not faking it until you make it. Actually, who you are is connecting with a kind of higher version of yourself, or the 2 years ahead version of yourself, to bring that feeling and that vibration and that energy just in your actions into the now. And so it's kind of like, we're not all our happiest, most positive, brightest self every day, right? Like, if you see me at 7 a.m.
Yep. If you'd seen me at 6 a.m., I had a beanie on. It was 8 degrees. Not looking for
I'm not as chirpy and amazing and as I am at other times, right? So this visioning of yourself and saying yes before you feel ready is actually when you're connecting to that, that future self, and bringing those actions into the now. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that applies for if you're working in a job, or if you're working in any version of business, or chasing a really cool, worthwhile project, on the side in your spare time. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. So the question would be to my ladies is like, who are you becoming? And who you're becoming, put that vision in front of you, so you grow into that person. So I love that. All right, my gosh, that was number one. Okay, what's number two? Right. Number two. Now, the second one, I haven't really shared this concept in any of my trainings or anything previously. It just kind of came to me that it would be perfect to share in this forum, particularly for women, and that is to, send out love and generosity freely into the world, and don't be attached to how it flows back to you. So to give some examples of that is often, with our friendships as women in life, and we all know our friendships nurture and support whatever our career or business endeavors are, right? They're foundations that support us. We might have a couple of friends that we've poured love and support into for years, and then when it comes time and we need that support, it's not returned, right? But what you will find is that all of the, amazing love and support you've put out into the universe will return to you, but maybe not through that particular person, right? So, and the same goes particularly when women are networking in business or building relationships and contacts in business is you might have invested a lot of energy and support in, say, for example, you might have connected two people together, and they might have hit it off and gone off to create something wonderful, and they would have never have met each other if it wasn't for you. And, you know, you never get a thank you or an acknowledgement or an inclusion in anything they do. And sometimes things like that can be really hurtful until you realize that actually situations are conspiring where that same scenario might happen for you somewhere totally unrelated, and you don't even think to thank that person or do anything. And I used to get really, really hurt by things like that until I realized that, you know, there's limitless opportunity and possibility, and you know, everything you give out will flow back, but it's very likely not going to be through the people or the situations that you may have poured into. And that releases expectation from certain friends. It releases expectation, particularly in a business context, when it comes to, you'll have some clients that, you know, you transform their life and then they, you know, just go off and be totally crazy, right? But then you have other opportunities that flow your way, and clients that showcase you and bring you crazy cool connections and things. And so it's a little bit of a layered concept, but it's something that I found particularly in my early stages of business, or anytime I did a transition. I had expectations around who might support me or show up for me, and would then cry my little heart out, you know, for months when I realized that, you know, some of these people, that wasn't their jam, or that wasn't their time, or, you know, they were friends for a different reason. And so that allows me to be a lot lighter in the world, and to continue being generous in spirit and time and energy without expectations or attachments. And that's a very freeing place to be. So that's a bit of a kind of a deep dive one.
I like that. I like that. And I completely resonate with expectations and, you know, throwing yourself out there, and then, you know, the ones that you think would support you and encourage you are gone. It's like, hang on a minute, hang on. I thought you would be there and you're not yet. And those moments of sobbing your little heart out on your pillow with your mascara all over your pillow, and then you kind of, you know, go, do you know what? It's like having an epiphany of acceptance. You know, I accept this. I have to just, my expectations need to be probably reassessed, and just, I have to accept this. I can only control myself. I can only influence others. I cannot control people and their behaviors. And so I have to let it go. But there is a real liberation. It's kind of perfect love, isn't it? It's just perfect love to people, regardless of their behavior and how that affects me. You
Absolutely.
You can set yourself free when you just go, I have no expectations. I just have perfect love. And, you know, and that's, if you can catch that, that will set you free from so much trauma and anguish and crying and emotion.
Absolutely. I have to say, it's probably a lesson that I have known intellectually, you know, for a long time, but it takes quite a few life journey lessons for that to really sink in. And I think if you can stay present to that perfect love, and to be connected to your own source of faith as well, that you you know, you don't need to be supported necessarily just by people. You're supported by your own faith. That really opens you up, and it keeps your heart open to new people to come into your life who maybe are divinely aligned with that mission, or just there for a season to support you in the way that sometimes you're there for a season to support someone else. So because when your heart's shut from fear, rejection, and self-pity, etc., and we all do it, then you're not open to those waves of support that may be coming from completely unexpected directions. So if you need to, in these moments, continue to be generous and loving outwardly as well. So that's a bit of a deep concept for such a short chat, but if it's something that you dive into, particularly because so many women I know do business in circles with lots of other women, and women in their life are important and feel called to serve and support women, but sometimes women can be really tough.
Yeah. And I really caught something then. So taking the expectation off the person, so taking the expectation off people, but like, let's say you've given to somebody and you've helped them, like you said, transition. You've given, you've been part of, facilitating their breakthrough, but you kind of didn't get anything from that. The expectation should be, you know what, I sowed into that person's life, so therefore I'm going to reap somewhere else. I'm going to be blessed somewhere else. That's going to come back to me through another form. And that's where the expectation should be, not on the people or what you've done. Going, you know what, I've done a good thing, and I believe that good thing's going to come right back at me in another form. And that's where I hold my expectations now. I'm a good person. I help someone. I know it might not come back through that person, but it'll come back somewhere else. And I pretty much 100% of the time that happens. And if you hold on to that belief and that philosophy, it works. It just works. And it keeps you free from emotional ups and downs, based on other people. So, yeah.
100%. And if you're in business, for example, that applies not just in relationships, but even just in the energy of doing what you feel is the right thing in the moment. Sometimes in the short term, I've done things in my business where I did the right thing and it cost me tens of thousands of dollars because I didn't have to do that thing. I could have, I wasn't legally obligated or whatever, but I did the right thing that I felt was the right thing at huge cost to myself. But, that has all come back in different ways. Yeah. All right. I know we're short on time, so I'm getting to the last.
Okay. No, we could just keep going. I know. Number three. Woohoo! Number 3.
All right. Now, for all my ladies who are listening, and guys too, but particularly women, this is going to sound so simple, and yet it is so far-reaching that it cannot be underestimated, and that is to be kind to yourself.
Yes. Good.
Now, I share this in many different ways, but just to keep it really simple, be kind to yourself, particularly if you are someone who is in a transition, striving for something big, or, on that cusp where you're about to leap into something big. Being kind to yourself means all sorts of things. Particularly if you're an A-type overachiever, it definitely means self-care. It means putting your own, particularly your physical body. A lot of people I connect with are very spiritual and very faith-orientated, but this is a physical body, and at the end of the day, it supports everything you do. It's the one commonality you have in your whole life, right? Even though it changes and evolves, this is your body. So if you don't look after it, it can't look after you, and you can't sustain running a marathon endlessly forever without having a break. And, you can do sprint runs, you can do 400 meters in terms of, business context. You can't endlessly run a marathon. So you have to really be looking after yourself. And particularly when it comes to women, I feel, there's a little bit of sometimes confusion around the concept of servant leadership, because I don't believe it means serving everyone else but yourself. You have to be filling up your cup in all sorts of different ways, particularly if you have a passion that you're pursuing or a business that you're growing. You also have to look at how you are filling up your bucket outside of that, so that you're not totally one-dimensional, that you're not, unbeknownst to you, on a crazy burnout track for next year. And I feel that I can really say this, having crazily burnt out big time twice, probably 2.5 times, was because really I wasn't being kind to myself. I would be taking on things that I would never recommend anyone else to do, and and looking after myself last. And I'm at this stage, I'm not a mum. So for all my friends and colleagues who are mums, they basically do that times 10, because they are looking after the whole family. So But to be kind to yourself, and that includes how your own self-language and talk to yourself. And many people will have done mindset work, but just honestly, think of yourself like, how do you speak to your daughter? How do you speak to your niece? How do you even speak to your best friend? And if that's not how you're speaking to yourself, you're going to have major challenges at some point. So, you know, a really great way to connect with how extraordinary and how amazing you are is to carry around a little photo of yourself, like when you're about 5 years old or something like that. You know, a nice little cute picture, and you go, oh, what a cutie, she's so sweet. And that's really how your inner self-talk should be. So back to point number one, when I was saying, say yes before you're ready.
Yes.
Oftentimes when I'm doing stuff that is really scary, or I totally feel like I'm in over my head, my self-talk and my self-language will be, you can do it, sweetheart. You can do this. You can do this, sweetheart. Like, as in the kind of language as if you were cheering on your little kid at a gymnastics comp or something. You've got this. You can. So sometimes it's caring and nurturing, and sometimes it's like, come on, rock it out. You can do it. You can do it.
I'm like boot camp Dawn in my head. Is like, right, that's enough. Get your butt moving, girl. That's the voice that I hear. That little sweetie one. I haven't heard her yet. You are doing this. Get off your back, get out of bed, get up that hill. You know, that's that voice.
And part of being kind to yourself is knowing yourself and being self-aware enough to know what works for you might be totally different than what works for someone else, right? So being kind to yourself is being self-aware enough to go, hey, you know, Dawn and I have totally different personalities, and we're both equally fabulous in different ways, and what nurtures and uplifts her might be different than me, and what her natural genius zone is and what she's really good at might be something that I have to work 100 times harder at to get the same result. So being kind to yourself means being self-aware enough not to compare yourself with other people, you know, and to go and to be kind enough to acknowledge all of your own amazing strengths and talents and what you're good at, and celebrate and acknowledge those rather than beating yourself up for, you know, the things that you weren't born with or that don't come natural to you. So being kind to yourself, you know, it's like a whole novel, but it's just to start becoming aware of your own inner dialogue, and is that supporting you or keeping you down? Like, I remember when I was younger, before I'd done a whole lot of self-development and I was at kind of a dark, depressing stage, like my favorite word in my head to call myself was a bitch. You know, don't be a lazy bitch, don't be a da-da-da-da-da. Like, it was kind of like, if you heard that out loud, you'd be mortified, right? But that was just my daily life. So it's no wonder that manifested in self-hatred and all sorts of dark things, right? And that didn't really come from anything per se. It came from little things that then over time just became the norm, right? So it's not like something terrible happened and then I started attacking myself. It was just, you know, little things, and part of this comes from society and just not being aware. So being kind to yourself means also looking at, maybe, do you need to go on a retreat to support yourself? Do you need to go to a self-development workshop, or do you need to spend more time with faith or whatever's important to you? Or do you need to prioritize more time with the people in your life who give you life and encourage you, and less time with the people that, you know, even if you are tied to them through the bonds of family, possibly less time with people who, you know, leave you feeling less than. So
that's really good.
Because I think that's a foundation for it. Doesn't matter how much success you achieve in your business, or if you create this charitable project that saves the world, nothing on the external world will ever validate you internally. So it's important to be kind, whatever path, you know, whatever stage along the path you're on, because that's pretty much the same feeling you'll have once you've achieved. Like, I remember achieving some really massive pinnacles in my business, and I felt the same the next day, right? In your internal world really doesn't shift that much based on external accomplishments or achieving the goals. So
that's good. All right, I have a question. Tell me, you're not hearing that voice anymore, are you? It's been no, that's right. And so one tip that you think was pivotal from the moment where you were hearing like that inner critic, the voice of abuse, if you like, in your own mind, is there one thing that you can think that actually just shifted that for you? Off the
10 years of investing thousands of dollars in coaching and workshops and leadership, but no. But for me, I'm quite different to a lot of other people who do have huge moments and epiphanies and things shift for them. Truthfully, for me, almost everything in my life have been gradual changes. And I'm often the type of person who digests and absorbs information and ideas and then sometimes doesn't act on them or implement them later or quite slowly.
Number one.
Yes, exactly. But I would say that simple things like even nourishing your body does make it easier for you to implement mindset changes, because things like serotonin and the way your neurons fire and connect is very much related to your physiology. And I think you can do mindset work until the cows come home, but if you're kind of trying to fix or improve something that's not functioning as well as it could be, it's going to be a lot harder. And I think self-awareness, most of the time we do things and we're just not even aware. So self-awareness is the first step. And I think all of my major transitional changes have come when I've asked myself, do I really want to be living this way tomorrow and for the next 10 years?
Yes.
And if not, then something has to change. And sometimes, usually, not sometimes, always for me, changing something is always harder in the short term than it is continuing that habit.
Yes. Yeah.
So any major change, and especially you'll know with stages in business growth or business cycle, that transition change is harder, and often you make less money than like where you were before, but you don't want to stay here, so you have to go through a little bit of chaos and change in order to break through the next level. And personal development and self-growth is kind of the same thing. Sometimes I will say that the mistake I have made in the past that I try not to repeat too often is that I've pretty much usually done things the hard way and tried to do them all myself, and I haven't been as vulnerable and haven't connected with people in my world as much as I could have. And often they love nothing more than to support or encourage you, but they have to know that. So or even seeking professionals and paying the right professional coaches or mentors or whatever it is that you feel you need. That's really helpful as well.
It's like you'll plateau, and it's almost like you need someone to hold your hand to take you, to transition you through that next. And you're right, that first bit of change is painful because you got to let some stuff go. You got to clean some stuff up. You got to change some thinking. You got to do different things that are difficult and awkward. But like you said, the breakthrough comes when you say yes, even when you're not ready. All right.
Absolutely. I would say one final thing that wraps up something you said at the beginning is when you would hold that belief and vision ahead and believe and believe. Yes. Sometimes if you are wanting to create something really big in the world, sometimes you can't hold that belief for yourself. It does really help to align yourself with someone who can also help you hold that belief with unwavering certainty. And I know that's one thing that I did really well when I was coaching clients, and you might be able to find a coach, looking at Dawn here, who can probably help you do the same thing, is that I would hold that space of certainty. unwavering certainty and possibility and belief
Yeah.
for the person even before they could, because on a day-by-day basis you can get derailed by things.
Yes.
So if you are aligned with someone who can powerfully help you hold that intention and that vision, that possibility and belief with you, you know, you are going to leap 10 times further and faster. So, and I know that's the sort of thing you help women with now, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I'm more excited about my clients than they are. Because, you know, I don't know what, you know, being a visionary, and I've kind of got really good vision. I can kind of see in the future, if you like, and I can see people's potential. And I'm like, hang on a minute, what you're thinking and, you know, who you think you are and who you think you are completely incongruent. So you need to catch up with me because I see potential. I see, you know, power. I see purpose. I see all of it. And they're like, really? And it's like, you believe in me? And I'm like, amen, I do, you know, and at that, it sort of sets them on fire with their own passion to actually, okay. So, and I know when someone's believed in me and I've gone, oh, well, if they believe I can, I better believe it. And I've actually stepped up to the mark and I did it. So I do believe that having some encouragers in you, and, you know, feedback from clients as well, having some encouragers around you does make you go further than if you were trying to do it on your own. So that's awesome. You are an absolute treasure. Honestly, I could just keep going forever and ever and ever.
I know.
Okay. But I just want to sum up. Number one wisdom was say yes even when you're not ready. Number two was, I think, is, you know, send out love, even to your haters, even to anybody who is done the wrong thing by you. Just love them and have your expectations in what you sow, you shall reap. I believe that totally. Number three, be kind to yourself, nurture yourself, pour in some, you know, if you're exhausted, tired, overwhelmed, and that's a big warning flag. You know, the cortisol's flowing, your stress hormones flowing, and we need to get some happy serotonin going. So, you know, be kind to yourself. So I love those three, and I know that it's going to help a lot of women who are watching, who will listen. Guys, this will be available on podcast. We will share the link with you. You know, if you are on the podcast, welcome to the podcast. But yeah, this has been absolute awesome. Monique, you're a treasure. So anyway, guys, we will say no worries. It's been a pleasure, and I will have you back for more chats, I'm sure. All right.
Fabulous.
See you, everybody.
Bye.